Alright everyone, we start off today with new revelations with regards to the FTX scandal. Of course, that's with Sam Bankman-Fried and others. A huge crypto slush fund, which appears to be mostly what it was about. Of course, that's collapsed. Although Fried is continuing to hold his ground, I guess instead of fleeing, he decided that he would actually defend himself. It's possible that he's just a political ideologue and sort of being used, ironically, as a fall guy for a much bigger web of problems that appear to be at least tangentially linked to FTX. This one's more of an explicit link. Mitch McConnell, apparently, a PAC that was directly related to him, they got $1 million from FTX as well. So here's what we know so far. Bankman-Fried himself sent tens of millions of dollars to the Democratic Party. He was, in fact, their second largest all-time donor for a significant period of time. George Soros is the only one who overall donated more money than him. That looks like favor catering. Basically, hey, I'm giving you money. Don't investigate me too much because clearly my company's got some issues financially. We're evaluating ourselves as being worth monumentally more than we're actually worth. But here's a few tens of millions of dollars, so don't complain too much. Then we found that Kevin McCarthy received money, PACs related to his efforts, partially used to knock out Madison Cawthorn, actually. Madison Cawthorn is going to be out of a job in a few short weeks, specifically because Kevin McCarthy, the presumptive House GOP leader, decided to target one of his own candidates. Now we find out Mitch McConnell was also getting money, again through this sort of crypto-related slush fund. You'll remember Mitch McConnell is the dude who wasted $9 million in a GOP v. GOP Alaska race while deliberately ignoring dozens of competitive races in the rest of the country. Right now, absent Mitch McConnell's bullshit, the GOP would have several additional Senate seats. They would have picked up an extra, I'd say, half a dozen to a dozen more House seats. They could have done this comfortably. You wouldn't have a Georgia runoff. You would have no problem. Blake Masters could have won. You could have even carried Mehmet Oz over the finish line. A flawed candidate, as though I always declared him. Probably with an extra couple of million in ads, he would have just barely closed that gap and won against Fetterman. Instead, because of Mitch McConnell, we have yet another brain-dead person in Congress. It's not like that's exactly abnormal for Congress, for especially Senate standards, but you could have had Mehmet Oz. Yeah, he's a sleazy dude. He's the carpetbagger. He's the bullshit sort of used car salesman stereotype, actually, but still better than Fetterman. At least he can string together a sentence, generally speaking. As far as speaking goes, he's on the top half. Then, of course, you have more shenanigans. Right now we have a proxy war going on in Ukraine, and tens of billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars have been sent there. FTX was set up as well to solicit donations for Ukraine. So why does it look like basically a who's who's list of who you would suspect may have been friendly with Jeffrey Epstein also got money because of what FTX was doing? I have a feeling that there's a reason why a bunch of bullshit, meaningless, astroturfed things are in the news right now, and FTX and that particular scandal, SBC I think is another one, is barely getting any coverage at all. This is like the Panama Papers. Do you remember those? I do, fondly. Huge load, enormous leak of documents showing sort of the web of money movement and corruption and malfeasance that involves numerous world governments, both East and Western Bloc. This plays a role in my personal opinions with regards to the geopolitical situation of the world, by the way, with regards to Putin, Jinping, certain others that pretend that they're separate from the Western system. They're totally not imperialistic. They're the only ones in history that aren't. The Panama Papers exposed an enormous amount of corruption. It was an enormous bombshells, like a quadruple doozy. When's the last time that you heard anything about them? You barely heard much about them even when the news first broke years ago. It was very swiftly buried by other things. Well, you know, a volcano just erupted for the third time this year, but this time it's newsworthy because, you know, there's a pyroclastic flow. Oh, some kid died. Here's 20 pictures of how cute they were when they were still alive. Hey, a politician said a thing. We're construing it as problematic. Totally buried out. You remember when Michael Hastings was assassinated, the same thing happened. What about the AP spying scandal under Obama? Didn't hear too much about that. Scandal after scandal. What happens is the legacy media probably got FTX money too, and at the very least the politicians that they want exclusive interviews with and they don't want to face any repercussions from, those people appear generally to have been involved. Not only to the Dem party, so 40 plus billion to the Democrats, and the same company involved with millions and millions in donations to the Unipartyists running the GOP. At some point, it's no longer favor catering. Some of it, I believe it was. Possibly even their goddamn CEO himself. It could turn out that he's like, hey, you know, he's already exposed woke capitalism. That doesn't get much airplay either. It could be that maybe he's just being used as a fall guy. Wouldn't that be funny? The dude running the whole scam operation actually was the least corrupt person in the room. And other people associated with what was going on there and with other people associated with FTX were the ones that were actually using it as a giant slush fund. What I'm wondering, this is an honest question, why don't you just continue using Chinese slush funds like the Clintons always did? You know, you can launder your money in foreign shores. It makes it much more resistant to anyone ever finding out where it came from. Just do what a normal politician in the U.S. does and launder it through China. Or through something like, through Cyprus or Malta or something. That's what they do. Hey, I've got a bank account set up in Switzerland. Nobody is allowed to look into the books and ledgers there because they're so neutral. Ha ha, you don't have any clue how much money I have, where it was made, where it's from. Oh, I just dumped $10 million were just dumped into the pack that I'm not supposed to communicate with, but it looks suspiciously like it came to a group that got money from me in the first place. No, it's not technically illegal now, is it? It's been laundered. Why don't you just do that? Why the hell did you use FTX as a firm to handle this from the Bahamas? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Basically, they were caught with their pants down, and they were using a slush fund that was politically catered in the first place. This is my opinion, not an objective fact. And they made an oopsie. Because they looked past, because of the donations that were being made, they were willing in the regulatory sense to just sort of wave any problems away. Well, you know, their numbers don't really quite add up. But they're not so egregious that it's not possibly believable, their evaluation, their self-evaluation, etc. Sort of like an IRS agent auditing themselves at some point. It's fishy, but, you know, they just donated $5 million to my re-election bid. That's okay. If they get caught, it's not going to implicate me. I can always claim ignorance. And they will, by the way. Mitch McConnell should probably address this, but won't. Kevin McCarthy should definitely address the money that was funneled into his political groups. He won't, despite the fact that, again, they were literally used to attack a GOP opponent. Again, Madison Cawthorn. And that is coincidental, by the way. The list of people who lost because of Mitch McConnell or Kevin McCarthy is a total coincidence. It's coincidental that every single one of these people has lambasted the Uniparty. Cawthorn, the most of all, feels sorry for the kid. Of course, he's the one that came out and said, well, I keep getting offers to go to cocaine-fueled orgies now that I'm here in Congress. And he got smacked down by the Republican Unipartyists, who then robbed him of a job. Very interesting. Myra Flores. Oh, yeah. Head MAGA queen herself manages to narrowly lose after being deprived of money from the Uniparty. Blake Masters. Carrie Lake. Mehmet Oz for what little it's worth. Again, I don't really like the dude as a candidate, but he was MAGA-backed. You know, kind of. He's more like a Ted Cruz, like a missing link MAGA, you could call him. That's basically what happened. It's a Uniparty slush fund to the tune of many tens of millions. Are we going to get more leaks talking about where some of that money went politically? Again, Ukraine war effort. There was a huge amount of money and grifting there. McConnell and Kevin McCarthy, the Democrat DNC at large. It is the Uniparty system. This is what I've spoken of for years now. The GOP's leadership is basically on board with everything the Democrats want to do anyway, which is why people like Romney and Cornyn flip on a bunch of bills that are actually important while holding out on bills that nobody really expects to pass in the first place. Thank you, Kitty. That's about all. Peace out.